When we look at the troubleshooting of BGP neighborships, these are really quite a bit different than any other routing protocol. Just the very nature of BGP is fundamentally different. But we still have a few of the usual suspects. Interface could be down. We might not have layer 3 connectivity. Now this is different because it's possible that we may need a router to route our neighborship packets between devices. One oddity is we cannot rely upon the default route to reach our neighbor, so we might be able to ping it, but we might still not form a neighborship. We may not have a route to the local router. Bad neighbor statements, I've run into that more often than I care to admit. We have to be mindful of the way that BGP forms neighborships and sets expectations of the IP addresses that are communicating with it. eBGP has a time to live that defaults to 1, and so if our BGP neighborships are between different devices if our eBGP neighborships have to cross an extra router hop, we have to adjust for that. And that authentication can certainly make our lives more difficult with regards to neighborship. When we're looking at BGP neighborship, the first place we should go is Show IP BGP Summary. Now I want the word summary to resonate with you because you would think, oh, I'm going to do neighbors. And the reality is you could do neighbors, but summary is much better. I'm going to do a Show IP BGP Summary. And what we want to see down over here on the right-hand side is a number. Even a number of 0 is okay. This indicates that we are established. And if you see prefixes received, you can only get that with an established neighborship. Now, what if you don't see neighborship? Well, it might be that we have no connectivity because an interface is down. This is not the most grandiose or BGP specific issue, but you do need to understand, hey, my interfaces have to be up, and we can never overlook the simple things. And this would be one of the more straightforward things. Maybe we have to do a no shutdown command to administratively bring up an interface. When we look at BGP neighborship, it goes through these processes, these steps. First is idle. So what we're doing is we're looking at our configuration, and we have network statements that point us to another router that we want to form a unicast neighborship with over BGP. So we're going to have to know how to reach that IP address, so we look at our routing table for that. Now, assuming that we have found an entry that matches, and secondarily, assuming that it is not a default route, we can go beyond idle. But I want you to see that if we see idle, well, that means we don't know how to reach that IP address. So you'd troubleshoot accordingly. Why is it that we cannot reach the neighbor IP address? Maybe it's a bad IP address. Maybe it is not being advertised within the IGP of our autonomous system. The next is connect. We form a neighborship over TCP port 179, and so we're going to go through the three-way handshake. Be mindful that TCP port 179 can also be filtered. Then we send an initiation, basically announcing ourselves, and let's say we've undergone the three-way handshake, but then we don't get reciprocation. Well, it might be that we are sharing information in our open message that is not congruent with the expectations of the far side. Maybe we're announcing ourselves as Autonomous System 1 and they expect us to be 5. That would be a problem. Then we have an open confirm. An open confirm, that means we're in the closing steps of our adjacency, and then established, we're there. Now, we can be established and not converged, or we can be established and converged, but established is what we want to see. Authentication for BGP is surprisingly straightforward to configure. Why? it's just a shared password. And it should not surprise us that failed authentication can be the cause of no neighborship. So if you see show IP BGP summary, well, we might look at our config and go, oh, well, wait a minute. I have some authentication going on. Let's dig deeper into that and make sure that it is matching on both sides. And so the way that we remediate it is we supply the correct credentials to the neighbor statements, and that will resolve the BGP configuration issue. So pretty straightforward issue.